It's Wednesday night, a little after 9. Inside a McDonald's in the relatively small city of Zhaoyuan, eastern China, the dinner rush is winding down. Staff are wiping tables, customers are finishing their meals, parents are gathering their children. It's a perfectly ordinary evening. A 37-year-old woman is sitting near the back of the restaurant, waiting for her husband and her young son to arrive. Her shift at work has just ended. Then a group walks in and moves from table to table. At each one, they ask for a phone number. The customers give one. Real or fake, it doesn't matter. The group reaches her table. They request her phone number, and she says no. They ask again. She says no again. And she doesn't know that this decision will be her last. Tonight, we're going to talk about the murder of Wu Zhaoyuan, a case that became known across China as the McDonald's murder. A killing so public, so senseless, and so brutal that it forced an entire country to ask not just who did this, but why no one stopped it. The woman at the center of the story, Wu Zhaoyuan, was married to a man named Jin Chongqing. They had a young son together, and he was just 5 years old at the time of her death. Wu Zhaoyuan worked as a saleswoman at a clothing store in the same mall complex as the McDonald's. By all accounts, her life was quiet and ordinary in the best possible way. Friends and neighbors describe her as warm and kind, the sort of person to avoid drama. Nobody could have imagined that one day she would become the subject of a national news story. On the night of May 28, 2014, Wu Zhaoyuan went downstairs to the McDonald's to wait for her husband and son. Then, the group of 6 people entered. Witnesses later described them moving through the restaurant in an organized way, approaching each table, delivering a short religious speech, and asking for a phone number. Some customers gave real ones, others gave fake numbers just to make the interaction end. The group accepted whatever they were given and moved on. Then they reached Wu Zhaoyuan. There is some disagreement as to who made the initial approach. China Central Television reported that it was Zhang Lidong, 54, the oldest member of the group, who spoke to her first. But in her trial testimony, Liu Yingchun stated that it was Zhang Heng, Zhang Lidong's 18-year-old daughter, who first asked for the number. Whoever it was that initiated contact, the response they received was a clear no. They got the same response the second time. But this second rejection shifted something in the group. They conferred briefly. Then they reached a conclusion that no other group of people could possibly have come up with. They concluded that Wu Zhaoyuan's repeated refusals were evidence that she was a demon, an evil spirit who had been draining their spiritual energy simply by sitting there and saying no. And then they decided that this demon had to be eliminated. A member named Zhang Fan moved first. She grabbed a chair and struck Wu Zhaoyuan with it. She resisted, and this resistance seemed to trigger the rest. Zhang Lidong, for some reason, had brought a mop with a metal handle into the restaurant. He swung it at Wu Zhaoyuan's head and face repeatedly, with enough force that the handle eventually broke. Zhang Fan jumped on Wu Zhaoyuan's head and face, shouting for the others to keep hitting her. After the mop handle broke, Zhang Lidong dragged the victim out from between the tables and continued kicking and stomping on her head. Another group member, Liu Yingchun, kicked her body. Throughout the attack, Wu Zhaoyuan could be heard screaming. One attacker shouted at her, "Go die, evil spirit." Another turned to the surrounding customers and shouted, "Whoever interferes will die." A McDonald's employee tried to call the police from the phone mounted on the wall. 2 members of the group saw her and threw a motorcycle helmet at her. The attack continued uninterrupted. Security camera footage shows at least 5 young men were present in the restaurant during the assault. Some drifted toward the edges of the room. Others stood near the doors. Some stayed in their seats. Not one of them moved to help Wu Zhaoyuan. The police arrived within minutes. The arrival of the police inspired some bystanders to finally step in. But the group was still beating her. And by the time the group had finally been subdued, Wu Xiuyan had suffered around 20 minutes of continuous beating. She was transported to a hospital and was officially pronounced dead at 9:48 p.m. 5 of the 6 attackers were arrested at the scene. The 6th, Zhang Duo, who was just 12 years old, was processed separately through the juvenile system. One witness described what they had seen to reporters in the days after. The little boy who was with them was so calm, they said. Even when the police arrived, he kicked the victim in the head, yelling, "Evil goes to hell." The group responsible was the Zhang family, who had relocated from Hebei province to Zhaoyuan some years earlier. To understand how they ended up walking into a McDonald's with a mop, you need to understand who they were and what they believed. Zhang Lidong was born in 1959 in Hebei province. He had been, at various points, a reasonably successful man, the owner of a textile business, someone who had built something for himself. But by the time of the murder, he was unemployed. He would later explain at trial what he considered to be a more accurate explanation, which was that he believed himself to be in full service of his gods. The rest of the group consisted of Li Dong's partner, Zhang Qiaoyan, who was 31 years his junior. She had only recently embraced the group's faith. His older daughter from his previous marriage, Zhang Fan, was 29. His younger daughter Zhang Hang was 18, and his son Zhang Duo was just 12. The 6th member, Liu Yingchun, was 39, and had been living with the Zhang family for years. Now, even as far as cults go, this one was especially niche. Liu Yingchun was the movement's original point. She had been running a small religious study group in Zhaoyuan since the early 2000s, drawing on apocalyptic Christian texts. At its peak, the group had around 20 to 30 believers. Zhang Fan discovered Liu's teachings online in 2008 and found in them something she recognized and accepted. The following summer, in 2009, she converted her mother, and through her mother, she converted her entire family. The whole Zhang household eventually relocated to Zhaoyuan. One floor of their rented building hosted the remnants of Zhang Lidong's former textile business. The other floor hosted their religious gatherings. Over the years, the group's theology evolved and narrowed until it arrived at a belief that was both simple and absolute. God had returned to Earth, not in a single body, but in 2 bodies simultaneously. The bodies of Liu Yingchun and Zhang Fan, 2 women sharing one divine soul. The group also absorbed 2 independent preachers from Baotou, Inner Mongolia, who were eventually pronounced evil spirits and expelled when they refused to acknowledge that Liu Yingchun and Zhang Fan were divine. Another person also joined the inner circle before later being expelled for the same reason. Anyone who questioned the group's theology was labeled a demon and cast out. By May 2014, even Zhang Fan's own mother had been removed from the family home and declared an evil spirit. Zhang Lidong, the father, the former businessman, a grown man in his 50s, was expected to obey his 29-year-old daughter without question, because he believed her to be God. And his belief didn't waver. 3 days after the murder, on May 31st, 2014, China Central Television aired a jailhouse interview with Zhang Lidong. As he sat there, handcuffed, he spoke with a shocking lack of remorse. "I beat her with all my might and stamped on her too," he said. "She was a demon. We had to destroy her." Footage of the interview blew up online, garnering more than 10,000 comments within hours. Chinese authorities attributed the murder to the Church of Almighty God, also known as Eastern Lightning, a banned quasi-Christian organization that had been outlawed in China since 1995. The leader, Zhao Weishan, fled to the United States after the organization was banned. The connection to Eastern Lightning was stuck in mainstream reporting for years, but at trial, the picture that emerged was considerably more complicated. The Beijing News, a paper with a reputation for independent reporting despite being state-owned, published detailed coverage of the defendant's trial testimony the day after the hearing. Both Liu Yingchun and Zhang Fan explicitly stated under oath that their group was a separate movement to Eastern Lightning. Zhang Fan told the court, "I never managed to contact the Church of Almighty God because they were secretive people and I was not able to find them." Eastern Lightning publicly condemned the murder and denied any connection. Western scholars who studied the trial records broadly agreed the Zhaoyuan killers belonged to a distinct splinter movement that had developed independently. But this distinction didn't matter. The government used the murder to justify a wave of crackdowns it had already been planning. Within weeks, nearly 1,000 members of Eastern Lightning were arrested across China. By the end of 2014, the total exceeded 1,500. But this campaign didn't affect the 5 defendants, who appeared before the Intermediate People's Court of Yantai on August 21st, 2014. At the hearing, Liu Yingchun gave the most complete account of the group's beliefs at the moment of the attack. She told the court Zhang Hang asked the lady for her phone number, but she refused to give it to her. When I became conscious of it, I found out that we had been attacked and drained by an evil spirit, which caused us to be weak and helpless. The 2 of us identified her as that evil spirit and cursed her with words. Not only did she not listen, her attack got even stronger. During the demon's attack on us, Zhang Fan and I became gradually aware that the woman must die. Otherwise, it would devour everybody. The clash between the woman and us was a battle between 2 spirits. The others could not see it, and neither could they understand it. The police could not understand it either. Liu Yingchun gave no indication of regret. Of the 5 defendants, only Zhang Hang and Zhang Qiaolian expressed any remorse. The others didn't. Observers at the time noted that Zhang Lidong and Zhang Fan in particular seemed indifferent to the prospect of execution. Scholars who studied the group suggested a possible reason. Liu Yingchun and Zhang Fan had previously told their followers that they would soon depart this earth and return to heaven. For them, execution may not have felt like punishment at all. It may have felt like the means of that departure. On October 11th, 2014, the court delivered its verdicts. Zhang Lidong and Zhang Fan were sentenced to death. Liu Yingchun received life imprisonment. Zhang Hang was sentenced to 10 years. Zhang Qiaolian received 7 years. The Shandong Higher People's Court rejected all appeals in November 2014. The Supreme People's Court reviewed and approved the death sentences. On February 2nd, 2015, a father and daughter were executed in Yantai, Shandong Province. In May 2017, Liu Yingchun's sentence was reduced to 21 years and 3 months on account of good behavior. Chinese authorities reported that she had been writing a memoir, denouncing her former beliefs, and giving lectures to fellow inmates as part of the state's official anti-cult program. Zhang Hang, sentenced to 10 years, would have been eligible for release by 2024. Zhang Qiaolian, sentenced to 7 years by 2021. But neither has re-entered public record. Zhang Duo, the 12-year-old, who witnesses described as still kicking Wu Shuoyan's head as police arrived, was too young under Chinese law to stand trial. He was processed through juvenile channels. What became of him is not publicly known. 1 week after the murder, Wu Shuoyan's husband, Jin Zhongqing, brought his son back to the McDonald's in Zhaoyuan. They came dressed in white mourning robes. They burned paper offerings outside the restaurant door. It was the 7th day after Wu Shuoyan's death, the day in Chinese tradition when the soul of the departed is believed to return home for a final farewell. Some of the witnesses who had been inside the restaurant that night were also present. Jin Zhongqing spoke to reporters from People's Daily. He said he hadn't told his son the full truth of what had happened to his mother. But his son, he said, seemed to understand anyway. He kept comforting me, asking me to stop crying, Jin said. He said Mom was looking at us from heaven. My heart was broken. The murder ignited a huge debate across China. It wasn't primarily about cults or religion, but about those who were present at the scene and did nothing. The footage had shown everything, not just the attack, but the people watching it. Customers filming on their phones, staff retreating behind the counter, young men drifting to the edges of the room as a woman was beaten to death right in front of them. And the thing is, the attackers had no special weapons. They had a mop and chairs. The group consisted of 5 adults and a child. With enough help, they could have been overpowered. But they were not. 2 witnesses who had been in the restaurant came forward to speak to reporters from the South China Morning Post. They said it would haunt them. Zhaoyuan was 37 years old. She sold clothes at a mall in Zhaoyuan. She was waiting for her husband and her 5-year-old son on an ordinary Wednesday evening. She said no 2 times, and that is all it took. There is no way she could have anticipated that a simple rejection would have such tragic consequences, nor could she have known that no one would come to her help. A Beijing-based humanitarian activist named Cairang Duoji published an op-ed in the Beijing News that was widely shared at the time. I think he put it better than I can. The most frightening thing about this case was not that someone died. It was the indifference of everyone who watched. This case came as a wake-up call for China, and the bystander effect became a topic of national conversation. And we can only hope that this conversation had some impact. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.